Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our May 24th, 2022 regular meeting of Belleville City Council. For those residents watching on the city streaming service or on our YouTube channel or on the Your TV broadcast, I would point out that our agenda and all reports are on the city website at www.belleville.ca under the Agenda Minutes and Live Meeting Video button on the left side of the screen. If you click on it and then click on May 24th on the calendar, it'll bring you to the agenda for today's meeting. There is a hyperlink inside the agenda in the event you wish to look at the actual reports, the specific ones, and you can follow along with us at our meeting. I will now call the meeting to order and state that we are all present with the exception of Councillor Thompson, and I'll ask the City Clerk and Director of Corporate Services, Matt McDonald, to lead us in a moment of reflection.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Colleagues, I'll ask if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Does anyone have anything to declare? Seeing none, there are no public meetings today, so I'll ask for a resolution to read and confirm the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of May 9th, 2022, and the regular in-camera council meeting minutes of May 9th, 2022. Moved by Councillor Alsop, seconded by Councillor Feeney. Any questions or comments? All in favor? It's carried. And we'll move to deputations, but before we move right into deputations, I do want to take a moment to recognize our retiring employee, Mr. Peter Ling, Acting Director Peter Ling. Peter Ling has worked for the City of Belleville for almost 39 years and will be retiring shortly. It is indeed an honor for me today to be able to recognize Peter for all that he has done for our City of Belleville. Starting way back in October 1983, and to put things in historical context, the Prime Minister of Canada at that time was Pierre Elliott Trudeau. But 16-year-old Peter Ling started with the City of Belleville as part of the Broom Gang. And over the next 38 years, as he worked his way through 7 official promotions, he also did many jobs that were not part of his official duties. Peter has served as a custodian, area maintenance, lead hand, refrigeration operator, facility supervisor, facilities manager, and retires as the Acting Director of Recreation, Culture, and Community Services. He has been a steady hand on the department tiller and is responsible for not just what we have at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center now, but also the entire project which renovated the Ardman Arena into what is now the CA Arena and the home of our Belleville Senators. Of course, Peter's family was a big part of his career, allowing him to be available to do all that was required, and it's wonderful to see Jennifer here with him today, and his daughters Maxine and Tessa were also very important to letting him do his job. Peter, City Council joins the residents of the City of Belleville in thanking you for your outstanding career. You will be missed, not just because of the professional work you have done, but also because of the heart you have showed as you worked with and served the people. I can say that this is a highlight for me in being able to participate in your retirement. Not because I get to see you leave, but because I get to say thank you for your service. I can tell you that I have never seen the department run as well as it has when you have been the acting director, but also that you did this during the greatest disruption of the century. Your no-drama demeanor allowed you and your staff to navigate all of the challenges as one of the most intensely citizen-interactive departments that we have in the city. But it was also done with compassion, professionalism, and dedication as you served our residents. Thank you for choosing to work for the City of Belleville. We have been privileged to have you, and we wish you a long and healthy retirement. And it's now my great honor to give you a certificate to recognize your retirement.
Through the chair to council, thank you. It has been a huge pleasure working for the city. I have been very fortunate. I've worked with some great councilors and mayors over the years. You know, the public has been a challenge, but I love working with the two. I can say that now. There are a couple I'm going to miss, and there's a lot of good people that work for the city. I've been very, very fortunate. I'm leaving behind a very good crew at the Sports and Wellness Center. Again, I'm at a loss for words, but thank you all for supporting me all these years.
All right, let's continue with deputations, and I'm going to invite Hillary Murphy from Task Force Engineering, who will make a deputation to council. Good afternoon, Ms. Murphy.
Good afternoon. Thank you to Mayor Panchuk and City Council for the opportunity to provide an update on the Memorial Marketplace project. It has been over 2 years since I last stood before you to present our vision for the Memorial and Legion redevelopment in response to the city's request for proposals. We were very pleased to have been the proponent selected by council to move forward with this project, and we were excited to get started with our planning and due diligence when we signed the agreement of purchase and sale with the city in February of 2020. The next thing we know, it's March, and this thing called COVID-19 is spreading. It has been announced that the schools will keep the kids home for an extra week or two after March break to curb the spread. As a parent of 2 young boys, active boys, I took a deep breath and thought, we can do an extra 2 weeks if it will stop this thing in its tracks. Fast forward May of 2020 or 2022, and I think we all are breathing a small sigh of relief that we appear to be moving to the other side of the pandemic into our new normal. Our vision for the memorial that we presented in the fall of 2019 was a gathering space and community hub for downtown Belleville, a place where people could come together to shop, eat, and play. Certainly, COVID has impacted that vision over the last 2 years. The retailers and services that we hope to attract to that space were dealing with staffing shortages, adapting their businesses on a regular basis to meet the changing public health requirements, and generally doing their very best to keep the lights on as we endured shutdown after shutdown. Ultimately, the uncertainty of what might happen next, combined with labor shortages, rising costs to construct, and in turn leasing rates, created a pause in our ability to finalize our design plans and secure retailers for the project. One of the benefits of this pause was the time it afforded us to work through the logistics of the design and how the memorial might be reconfigured to be a working, successful marketplace. One of the biggest design challenges that quickly became apparent was the lack of space for loading and garbage facilities that are critical for the success of a large market. With the memorial building landlocked on 2 sides, it was determined that the Legion building, with its size and site configuration, would not work to accommodate the loading and garbage facilities needed for the memorial if our plans were still to have a Legion building developed into residential. In addition to the garbage and loading facility challenge, as a result of the city's due diligence, some environmental contamination was discovered on both the Legion and Memorial sites. If the development of these lands were to be residential, which is considered a more sensitive land use from an environmental perspective, the site at minimum would require a record of site condition and quite possibly significant remediation to accommodate the more sensitive land use. As a result, it was determined that the Legion building would need to be removed along with the residential component of the proposed development. Back to present day, and we are currently moving forward with 2 design concepts. One is very similar to our original proposal for the memorial, which is a fully developed marketplace, which will blend a variety of retailers and food service businesses into one development with garbage and loading facilities located to the south of the building, adjacent to a new parking area that would be created where the Legion building currently sits. The second concept that we are exploring is a boutique hotel, which would be integrated in some way into the memorial redevelopment. We have held meetings with a well-known international hotel brand that operates boutique-style hotels. This design concept is in its early stages of development. However, if it appears to be gaining traction, we would offer that another presentation is made to council to better communicate these development plans and how they would integrate with the memorial redevelopment to ensure that the development fits with council's vision for the overall development of this property. Regardless of the final design concept that we move forward with, the Legion site will be integral to either development concept. As we do not currently own the Legion property, it is anticipated that there will be minimal to no physical work that takes place until ownership of both properties is acquired. This is expected to happen no later than February of 2023. As I briefly noted earlier, since our original proposal, another significant challenge that we are experiencing is the increased cost of construction. We are seeing in our industry overall increases of 30 to 40% from 2019 with projects of this size and scope, which is significant. We are working through new pro formas for both concepts, which will factor into the decision of how we move forward. There is no value in us building something that isn't affordable for businesses and retailers to be successful. We have also welcomed a new partner to our group. Joe Pula, owner of John Vince Foods, has joined our team and brings with him a wealth of retail and development experience. Joe is already heavily invested in the region, owning Danini Chocolate, Wapoose Winery, Barley Days Brewery, and the Big Apple in Colborne, in addition to a number of other businesses outside of our region. Joe is very well connected in the retail community and has been a tremendous asset to our team. We are looking forward to finally being in a position to move this development forward with more certainty and without the threat of constant change resulting from a global pandemic. We also believe that either development concept will be very positive for the community and specifically the downtown core as we see more and more investment and development taking place there every day. We very much appreciate the mayor and council's patience as we all navigated through COVID and the challenges it created globally and specifically for this project. There will still be challenges that we will be facing with leasing, rising interest rates, and cost to construct. However, we are excited to finally be in a position to move the project forward. I appreciate your time and attention this evening to provide an update on the Memorial and Legion redevelopment, and I am happy to turn it back to Mayor and Council if there are any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Murphy, and thank you. We appreciate you sticking to this because this disruption of COVID has impacted so much, and you know, when you're planning a development project such as this, looking for tenants in a world in which nobody is making any plans, it's very difficult. And I certainly appreciate council being patient through this, through that whole process. So the first question, before I get to my questions for you, I just want to get Mr. McDonald to give us a quick update on the situation with the property itself. So has the ownership or the paperwork being completed to transfer some or all of the property from the city of Belleville to the company that'll be doing this development moving forward?
Through the chair to mayor and council, the former memorial property, the arena, has been transferred, entitled to Task Force, the company that Hillary represents. So yes, title has been changed.
So we've got that, and then the second part where the Legion is, that is still through the process of being completed, correct?
That is correct. So, you know, out of respect for the current tenant, obviously Branch 99 of the Royal Canadian Legion, we're working diligently with the tenant, the Legion folks, to find them a suitable home for their needs, continued operations, and put a 12-month clause in there. So it expires at the end of the year. We're working with them. We've got a couple of sites right now that very promising for their needs and for us to move them out of the current location and then to turn the property over to Hillary and Company so that they can continue their development.
Okay, so just to be clear on that, their remaining is not an option. That we need that property as part of the deal that we've made to move forward, and we'll continue to work with relocation. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. So, Ms. Murphy, just back to some of the things you had said in your presentation. The potential of a boutique hotel, which was not part of your original proposal, you're working on it, and the Memorial Marketplace. The Memorial Marketplace, you still are going ahead with it regardless of what may or may not happen with a boutique hotel?
Correct.
Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I think our vision at this point, and again, it's really in its infancy stages. We've had 2 meetings with this this hotel brand, and it is very boutique. It's in keeping with what you might experience going to the Drake or something very eclectic and not your typical. So the idea that it's a draw and would bring people in as opposed to just being a stopover for somewhere. But
Right.
the idea would be that it integrates into the offerings of the Memorial Marketplace. So it might not look exactly like we had originally envisioned with the number of different vendors. Maybe it's fewer in some of the lobby, and that is integrated into the Memorial, but there would still be retail and commercial development tied into that. It's just to what scale and what the proportion would be.
Well, and I'll trust you. You're the expert in terms of how to do that. But the concept of it, I think it's very exciting. And but there's lots of details you have to work around to do something like that. But the Memorial Marketplace part of it is what will still be proceeding regardless, and that's very, very good. Particularly since we've had that great news about the development on the former Quinte Hotel site. And that project is moving ahead, and they will need places to shop. So this will be perfect timing. Before I open it up for other questions or comments, as I said at the beginning, COVID has impacted all of us. There are a lot of projects that we wanted to have started. We would have liked to have seen them farther along, but it is a reality, and we're dealing with it. We have delays because of COVID. Now we have inflationary times, interest rates, as you mentioned it. But I think we as a council are committed to work with you and your partners to have this project move ahead. Mr. McDonald and I were pleased to be on site a few weeks ago with your new partners to take a look at the opportunity that's there. And we're very excited about that vision, and we can hardly wait until you get started.
Us too.
Yeah. Colleagues, anyone else have any questions or comments for Ms. Murphy? All right, I guess that's it. Thank you very much for coming to provide us with this update. And if you have further renderings or anything else that you'd like to update on us, I know not only we are very interested, but the residents of the city are interested to see what you have in plan for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're working through, because we're looking at two different concepts at this point in time in parallel. We will be updating the website, and we'll be updating that content, both for potential retailers in the development, but then also for the public as well. We've also talked about the potential of hosting, again, a bit of an open house. We did it 2 years ago, really more in line with having retailers come through and see the space if they weren't familiar with it. But again, the number of people that have approached me from the public that said, I haven't been in the building in forever, and I just love to go in and see it, and just the nostalgia of the space the way it currently sits. There's been a real expression of interest. So we're hoping to do a bit of a public open house as well, just for the public to come through, and at that point in time we would have presentation material available for the two concepts and get some feedback as well. So
Terrific.
So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Looking for a resolution that the deputation by Hilary Murphy of Task Force Engineering, updating council on the progress of the Memorial Marketplace project, be received. Moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Millette. All in favor? It's carried. Next will be Doug Stevenson, the Executive Director of the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, who will make a deputation to council. Good afternoon, Mr. Stevenson.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mayor Panchuk and Council, for the opportunity to provide an update on our April 2021 to March 2022 fiscal year. And I got to start with an apology. There was an email issue. It would appear that city accounts were not able to communicate with my accounts, so this might be the first time you're seeing this. And so I provided it to the clerk if you need a copy, but also please feel free to reach out to me as well. I'm happy to review anything after the meeting. I'm going to jump right in. This is a regional partnership. You might remember me here this time last year, very excited that we were able to add Greater Napanee to this partnership, and I think it's really enhanced what we've been able to do, really ushering forward that North Shore Bay of Quinte brand. Here's the team right here. I'm in front of you today, but it's more than just me. It's a well-oiled machine right here. I'm really proud to be working with these folks on behalf of this region, on behalf of this city, through the portfolios that we drive through the course of the year. And so when I'm here, yeah, it's just me, but I'm speaking on their behalf, and as well our board of directors, of which thank you to Sean Kelly, who serves as our vice chair on that. Let's talk about success, and I want to hammer home a point before I get into the data, and that is that the municipal accommodation tax allows us to be competitive in this regard. Without that, Matt, we are not able to produce these numbers. You know, we look to our neighbors, City of Kingston, for example, municipal accommodation tax over $3 million. And then the city gives them another $1.4 million. So they've got a budget, you know, between $4 and $5 million. You'll see in a few slides we're working with about $1 million. But again, without that municipal accommodation tax, we can't compete. But I'm really happy to say and excited to say, you know, the numbers that we were able to see through 2021 are really optimistic. You know, to be able to be a top 15 in occupancy percentage in this country, that's terrific. And it goes back to the hard work that we're doing, not just our organization, but this city and our other regional partners working together. It's nice to be able to be higher than the Southeastern Ontario average, higher than the Kingston average, the Ontario average, the Canada average. And really neat, this middle point right here, we take our summer 2021 data. It's actually growth over pre-pandemic summer 2019. You know, if that isn't optimistic, I don't know what is. So I think there's a lot of good stuff coming in summer 2022. And just to show you the impact of tourism, you know, when we take the national data we get from CBRE, we take the short-term accommodation data we're able to get from outlets like AirDNA, we look at the numbers, we're able to apply a formula based on spending, just about $300 million spent in this region as a result of overnight stays. And when you look at City of Belleville, 880 rooms in hotels, motels. We're not even counting the short-term accommodations. 880 rooms out of about 1,400 in the region. Now the lion's share is coming to this city. Let's talk about resident attraction success. I think we all got to be really proud of this. This is amazing. When we look at the census data, and you know the numbers already, but I got to go through them, 8.6% growth since 2016, that's awesome. And to see how it compares to the average across Canada, the average across Ontario, but look in the middle there. Compare to the last census growth, compare to the previous census growth in 2011. I mean, this is, again, a lot of hard work, people working together, you folks around this table, creating opportunities like what we just heard about with the Memorial Marketplace. That is what makes this an awesome place to live. And of course, we know from our friends over at Quinte District Association of Realtors that it is one heck of a market out there. And luckily, we're starting to see a little bit of slowdown, right? But we know that housing is going to be a major topic in 2022 and beyond. Excuse me. I mentioned our budget. So this past fiscal year, working with just over $1 million, you'll see yourselves combined funding, about 44% of that. What did we do with the money? Well, right away, we invested 32% of it right back into the city. So marketing and event funding, 2 city initiatives, $57,000 and change. I'll talk about our marketing grants program. We awarded 22 marketing grants to Belleville businesses so that they could do marketing on behalf of this region as well to prop everybody up together, over $40,000 there. We do a BIA marketing program I'll get to in a future slide. We take 10% of that municipal accommodation tax. We pump it right back into the downtown district to support what they're doing from a marketing perspective. And we were also able to support financially the Discover Belleville Guide through the Belleville Chamber. So over $145,000 invested right back into the community. But also, the municipal accommodation tax money that we spend from the city, we're meant to spend 80% specifically on Belleville initiatives. So I mentioned that $145K. We also do omni-channel marketing specifically for the city. So this is paid search, this is programmatic, targeted social. This is the stuff you might never even see, right? We're targeting GTA East. We're targeting Ottawa. We're targeting that 401 corridor. We actually, in April, just turned back on our geo-target on Northeastern United States. And we're starting to see numbers there as well already. And I know that we're going to see visitation there, excuse me, through the summer months. Marketing operations and also content creation, radio campaigns. I'll talk about a big one we did in Kingston and Ottawa. We do a lot of print, a lot of signage, a lot of digital throughout. So you'll see we're spending about 84% of that Belleville municipal accommodation tax money on Belleville-specific initiatives to the tune of $323,620. What does it look like from a return on marketing investment point of view? Well, I'll talk about this in a slide in a few slides from now, but we're actually able to geofence attractions, accommodations, and show that when somebody clicks on a Bay of Quinte ad and physically enters a space that we've geofenced, we're actually able to show that. And we can apply a formula to that based on what it might be, an accommodation or an attraction. And we're able to show that over $2 million of estimated spending happened because people were seeing Bay of Quinte ads. We also work with a program called Golf in Ontario, able to book over $100,000 in overnight golf packages. So you see the return on marketing investment relative to our marketing budget, 195%, over $2 million. And I mentioned that estimated overnight spending, almost $300 million. So it's big numbers. Here's the marketing at work. We work across 38 different projects through the year. That's why we need those 4 people. It's not just putting stuff up on Facebook. Okay, we're out there working across a lot of different things. Again, a lot that you'd never even see. Our marketing campaigns, I mentioned, you may remember during COVID-19, we developed our Take a Drive campaign. That's our always on campaign. We're just always hammering that across the internet and able to achieve almost 4 million impressions on that over the last year. And this is where you see the numbers. So I mentioned the geofencing. So almost 22,000 physical entries into conversion zones that we're able to see from people clicking on Bay of Quinte ads. It's neat stuff. We did a big fall campaign to Kingston and Ottawa. Really targeted radio, really targeted that digital. We worked with Rogers Media on that. Got some great numbers there. A lot of earned media with our friends through Regional Tourism Organization 9. So that's the provincial arm of tourism, 13 districts through the region, and we work with RTO 9. I mentioned the marketing grant. So we did 2 cohorts, over $100,000 to 56 projects, over $40,000 to City of Belleville small businesses. 22 total marketing grants for them. There's some of them right there in front of you. Great to see a quote from one of the business owners, Laura Voskamp, working with her husband Adam out of the break room. We've been able to support them to create a brand new product, BayQuinte.bike. All sorts of cycling routes, and they're actually making it now into a print product that we're going to be able to work with them to distribute across the region. And if there's something that's becoming hotter and hotter, it's cycling, and that's a reason that people are now visiting this region as well. We work across 5 different websites, getting about 500,000 in traffic, mostly driven by storytelling. We're telling stories about why you want to be here, who you want to see, what you want to do. Our digital media, I mentioned, is a big part of our program, communicating with 63,000 followers any given week now across our social and across our 2 newsletters. Over 20% growth in the past year, which is great to see. Again, it's storytelling. It's talking about Ron McLean being here. It's talking about small businesses, what you want to eat when you're here. And our Discovery Guide, which I hope most people have come to know now, a flagship product of ours, just came out a few weeks ago with the newest edition. Just about 30,000 copies printed, distributed across the province. They're over half gone in 2 weeks. Trevor North's been out there pounding the pavement and getting them out all across the province. We did a lot in the video space this past year. Hired an aerial videographer to go out and shoot fall, summer, winter assets. We put them all into an online repository. Anybody can use them at any time. Same with photography. Dozens of locations. We send photographers out there, shoot them based on request. I had one come in from BGH just last week. We're going to a show. We need a pile of images. What do you got? Here's the folder. Feel free to use them. Do what you can with them. Just quickly, we are investing now in something called experiential tourism. And I got Destination Canada up here as the top image. That's the federal tourism government arm. And we listen a lot to them because they spend a lot of money to figure out where the trends are going. Well, they figured out, and we fully agree, that more immersive tourism experiences are going to be what people want to travel for. Experiential tourism, go somewhere, get your hands dirty, learn from somebody, take something away. And so we're actually working with one of the top consultants in the country on a project, developing 10 experiences over the next 2 years. And we're taking that knowledge to train the trainer. So your staff are actually learning, as well as our staff, from that consultant how to develop an experience. We've actually taken that knowledge, and we're already working to develop a downtown theater experience that's going to tell historical stories in the downtown as a partnership with multiple partners like Pinnacle Playhouse, River and Main, Theater, and we're also working again with the break room to develop cycling experiences. So we're already seeing that we're taking that knowledge and putting it into action. I mentioned the BIA marketing program, so we take 10% of the municipal accommodation tax from the City of Belleville. We work to enhance or build upon what the downtown is doing from a marketing perspective. So over $38,000 provided the past fiscal year. A lot of digital marketing through that omni-channel approach I mentioned earlier on. So the page search, the programmatic, the enhanced digital. And again, we're able to track the physical entries. People clicking on downtown ads, over almost 900 physical entries. They spend about $12,000 of that 38 on programmatic advertising. They're able to show ROI of over 40,000. That's pretty great stuff. A lot of photography, content creation, and again, event and activation marketing support as well through the year. It's always nice to be recognized. Really fortunate to have been recognized by the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, nominated in their innovation category. And we even took home an award from the Economic Developers Council of Ontario about last month in their Innovation and Community Resiliency category. Both of those were for the Marketing Grants Program, which again has had a huge impact on the community. Next steps. Well, we're doing a campaign right now. I don't know if you've seen the price of gas, but we figured we want to put a little bit of a push on before we get into summer. So we call it the Get Out of the House campaign. You got to get out of the house. Again, we're targeting that GTA East, that Ottawa 401 corridor, the day trip, the quick overnight trip for our municipal accommodation tax communities. So Belleville and Quinte West. Stay 2 nights in one of those accommodations, get a $50 gas card. We're partnering with CAA Belleville on that. Got $25,000 in gas cards as a function of this program. And this is something that we're going to work with the accommodators to review after the fact, enhance, make it better, and then ultimately redeliver in those lower occupancy months like November, January, February, upcoming. You were all waiting for it, the return of the Bay of Quinte print map. We're working on it again, backed by popular demand. You know, we stopped printing the thing. We went digital. Everybody told us print is dead. We kept getting requests from accommodators, from the Quinte Mall, from the visitor centers. We're just developing it right now. It wasn't even in the plan. But because so many people requested it, we're planning on printing about 50,000 of them. Jen Achilles, our designers, just about finished. We hope to print it and have it out by mid-June. We're doing a website redesign. Ultimately, the architecture of our current site is getting a little faulty. We don't want that. We want a visitor experience to be smooth. So we've just done an RFP process. We're reviewing the RFPs in collaboration with your staff here and others across the region. We're going to be redoing the website through the summer months. Best of the Bay was a campaign that we did in order to drive home that idea that we got a lot of great small businesses here. It was at a time when, you know, we were at a COVID low and we were trying to drive up interest and drive enthusiasm. We're going to get back into that this summer. And other upcoming major projects. We're developing a corporate travel strategy in collaboration with our accommodations partners and consultants across the region. We're doing that experiential tourism piece I mentioned, continued downtown marketing. We've actually got a new accommodations marketing program. It's very similar to the BIA marketing program. We're taking a percentage of that municipal accommodation tax, and we're going to sit down with our accommodators and develop marketing programs with them. Take that mat, give it back to the accommodators so that ultimately they can do more marketing so we can all work to attract more people here. We're developing that later this year. Going to be, again, now that restrictions are lifting, we're going to be getting back out there, attending 4 to 6 trade shows for travel trade, and try and make group bookings. Already been to 1. And then again, a lot of that continued project marketing and support that I've talked about throughout this presentation. Because at the end of the day, this is what we want to get back to. We want to be driving economic activity, driving investment on behalf of this partnership. So thanks from the team. I appreciate the time and happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you very much. It's very exciting. Good things are happening in Belleville, and big thank you to the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, your board, including our councillor Kelly, for all that work. I want to start off by just saying a big thank you to BQRMB for the business relief grants, the marketing grants you spoke about earlier that hit some of the hardest hit businesses during COVID, to give them some cash flow, something to help them survive. We knew that if we could survive the pandemic, we were going to thrive coming out of it, and that was really important. And it may not have been a big amount, particular grant, but it meant the world to those businesses. So, you know, big thank you to you for partnering. And back in the summer of 2020, when we thought this was going to be a temporary few more weeks, a couple more weeks before we're out of it, I established the mayor's ad hoc task force on marketing Belleville after COVID. And we did a lot of really good work on coming up with an advertising strategy and having things ready to go for the fall of 2020, which then turned into the spring of 2021, which then turned into the summer of 2021, fall. It's nice to see that you've been able to reuse some of that information and to move there. I just, as you're talking about what we can feature about Belleville and how we're such a hot spot for people wanting to come here and stay an extra couple nights. When the German delegation was visiting, Richard Hughes took them on a walking historical tour of downtown. And they really enjoyed that, and it was really interesting for them. And you talk about experiential tours, that people are looking for vacations that have more than just, the old things that we were interested in. That is something that's certainly there, and he did an excellent job, and
he's
it would be wonderful to deal with that. And then the last thing I just wanted to say before I open it up is that everything you've been talking about makes Belleville so exciting. One of the big things is this week, and it's the Mayor's Week for the Arts, and the spotlight we're putting on our artists and different productions. Your plans for theater in the downtown to bring people in there, it's great. On Thursday night, we'll be opening the River and Main Theater. The Theater in the Wings for their first show of the season, and it's going to be very exciting. And this is all things that people would want to come to Belleville to see, not just those of us that are here. So congratulations, thank you. Colleagues, anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Stevenson? Councillor Kelly, I'm sure you have something you want to say. You're on the board. Go ahead. No, let's let you start it off.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Nice presentation, Doug. Your energy is amazing, and you got a great team, and you work so well with all the partners within the city. That's what I hear, and I love representing the city of Belleville with the Bay Community Regional Marketing Board and how we've reached out to our friends in the east and the west, and collectively as a team, all bringing our talents and gifts for the particular area to make tourism work in Eastern Ontario and Belleville as the hub. Just continued success. And this summer's going to rock.
You bet.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stevenson.
Thanks so much.
Great to have you out again. So I'm looking for a resolution that the deputation by Doug Stevenson, Executive Director, Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, providing council with an update on the BQRMB 2021 year be received. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Feeney. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And then it's my great pleasure to call upon Mr. Dave Allen to come forward. Mr. Allen is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the YMCA of Central East Ontario, who will make a deputation to council. And I recall, Mr. Allen, a number of years ago, you coming to speak to council, and I was sitting in that seat that is vacant right now. Councillor Thompson occupies it now. And we had to do a little stick handling in to get the city to work with you on a list of potential sites that were owned by the city that might be a good location for a new YMCA. And as I think back to how far we've come since then, including your new facility and the partnerships that you're having there, it's an amazing journey. So welcome back, and we're excited to hear about your update today. Just press the red button there, or there you go.
I thought Councillor Millette was leaving because I was coming to the podium. Thank you for returning, sir. Okay. Thank you, Your Worship, Mayor Panchuk, and members of council. It's hard to believe it was 2.5 years ago I stood at the podium and you supported the application for the federal infrastructure funding in order to build the new Centre for Life here in the city of Belleville. We received approval. We were one of a handful of projects similar to ours. I think there were only 5 or 6 in the entire province of Ontario and in Canada that received the type of funding, YMCAs. So from our federal government partners, we're receiving $8.9 million, and from our provincial partners, we're receiving $7.4 million to build this new YMCA Centre for Life. And I can tell you that the initial application probably would not have made it if it wasn't for the support of the city of Belleville. And at the time when we completed it, nice to see Brandon here. He was a great support and actually came over and spent some time with me in the office as we were completing that application, and it was successful. And so then we moved forward. And you received the funding, and I've always thought you just receive the funding and you put a shovel in the ground and you start hammering and nails in and away you go. It doesn't really work that way. There's still a lot of work to do. So the first thing that we did is we started to go through a process to hire a construction management company. We hired YMCA procurement experts from YMCA Canada and YMCA of GTA, so that we made sure that what we were doing it correctly. Our main focus was to have a local company be the lead and assist us. And it's nice to see Hillary here today because Task Force Engineering came out on top during that process. All of those that were interested did a great job, but Task Force was the ones. We had done some work with them before, and we had a wonderful relationship. And so we're in the process now of just reviewing that contract. It's the longest contract I've ever seen in my existence as President and CEO, but it's happening, and I'm confident that we're going to be able to move forward, and we're excited to have Task Force involved in the project. The other key piece that we started to move towards, we did a community consultation. We hired a group called the Dennis Group, and they were the same company that did the fundraising for Hospice Quinte, and they are experts in the area of capital and financial development. And they went through a process last fall where we did a community consultation. It was important that we find out not only what our community knew about us, what they didn't know about us, but also to gauge what they needed to know about this project. And was there an affinity for this project in our community? And I'm pleased to say that the response was overwhelming. People were excited about the project. They were excited about the partners. Initially, when I stood before you, there was 3 of us. Now there's actually going to be 5 of us in that building. So we've added 2 new partners, which I think really starts to round out that Center for Life even more than we'd imagined that it would. So initially, we were looking at potentially a $5 or $6 million campaign. What came back was that it was actually $9 million, and that was the lower side. And so we then embarked on, as part of that community consultation, well, who could lead? Who could provide the necessary leadership in order to see us be successful? And a lot of wonderful names came back. A lot of people that we were really excited to see. And there were 2 that just kept coming back and back and back. And we approached these 2 individuals, and I'm proud that they agreed to become co-chairs for this campaign. Kristen Crow and Ed Leighton, who are with us here today, who I'm going to give them the opportunity to have the microphone because, trust me, they're far more interesting than I am. And then we looked at, what about an honorary co-chair? That person who has been involved in the Y and on many occasions saved the YMCA in Belleville from his involvement from at a very young age, from the time when he sat around this council table, supported the Y. And it was unanimous. It was Elaine and Wolf Tausenfreund would be our honorary co-chairs. In my experience with Kristen and Ed to date is people can't say no to them. We put together a list of approximately 13 or 14 names, and we went out and we approached 13 or 14 people. Nobody said no. Our campaign cabinet consists of Cassandra Bond, Susan O'Brien, who is also with us here this afternoon, Ruth Althouse, Heather Williams, Kelly McKinney, Doug Peterson, Bernie Willett, Boyd Sullivan, and Mark Phillips. Mark Phillips from the city of Quinte West is also part of that campaign cabinet and former board chair of our YMCA, John Masterakos. So we have an excellent team. They are working hard. We're in the quiet phase of the campaign. And so they're out knocking on a lot of doors and having some conversations with people about this project. And it's just been an incredible journey thus far. I'm still doing some work, working with Matt and Stephen and the team as we look at that entire site and how do we work together to provide our community with the best possible plan up at the old fairgrounds. And we're going to make it work, and it's going to be just something magical for this city and something that we need after 2.5 years. And before I invite Ed and Kristen and Wolf to say a few words, I'd like to congratulate you, Council, for your managing our community through the last 2 years. You've done an exemplary, I can't believe I can't say that. Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. It's really been remarkable that we've made it through this and we're out on the other side. So I'd like to invite Kristen, Ed, and Wolf to please come up, and we have no particular order. Whichever one takes the mic first, it's all theirs. So. Mr. Leighton, sir. Thank you.
I wish I had the 9 million so I wouldn't have to do this job. But I don't, so here we are. Anyway, I've been involved, or our family has been involved with the Y for 45 years or so. And in the recent years, we've become routinely involved trying to maintain personal fitness. But we found out that renewed new friendships and some renewed and new friendships have become more important during the workouts. Now, seeing the same friendly people when you go in the morning, and I usually go in between 6 and 7, it's an incentive to keep you going, because people miss you, and I miss people that aren't there too. The Y is one of the few places where 30-year-olds and 90-year-olds can work out together. And it's rather than being controlled, or rather than being watched, you're being supported. And the older ones act as role models for the young guys coming up. A cross-section of people go to the Y, and it's everybody. You see people from all walks of life there. You can participate in group classes or on your own, and it's all available to everybody. As Belleville grows, so must the Y grow, and to continue being inclusive and open to all, we need a strong Y to continue to support a diverse community. Thank you.
Good job, Ed. I'd like to first say, Mayor Panchuk and councillors, thank you so much for your support of this project thus far. We wouldn't be where we are today without the support of all of you. My affiliation with the Y over the years has strictly been business up until very recently. So with alarm systems, or through alarm systems, we've basically been a service and security provider for the Y until I moved my family into Belleville from the county in 2016, and we moved into the east end of Belleville, and my teenage boys at the time started to use the services at the Y. Recently, being asked to be part of this project, I'm extremely humbled and feel very honored and privileged to have been asked, and it's been pretty hard to say no to the group of individuals who asked me, being Dave Allen, Ed Leighton, Wolf Tausenfreund, and John Masterakis. How do you say no to that group of people? But recently, just becoming affiliated with this project, having a tour of the existing facility, and really hearing some of the stories, the heartfelt stories and the emotion and the people that use this facility. It's just a fabulous project to be part of. It's going to be a legendary project in this community, and just really excited to get out there, knock on some doors, and get lots of support from the city of Belleville, and looking forward to it. So I'm going to turn things over for the real story, and that is going to come from a gentleman who needs no introduction, but Mr. Wolf Tausenfreund.
Your Worship and members of council, despite those 22 years that have gone by, it still feels a little odd standing where I am, but I'll live with it. Allow me to give you a brief overview of our YMCA in Belleville. The Y has been an integral part of the Belleville community since 1911, when it was incorporated by the province of Ontario. Some of you may remember its original location of over 50 years in downtown Belleville on Campbell Street, featuring the then only indoor swimming facility in southeastern part of our province. On a personal note, my connection with the Y started as a 12-year-old when my mother and I emigrated, came to Canada from Germany, and we settled in London, Ontario. With sparse English language skills and little in available funds, I turned to the Y. No questions asked, the Y took me in. It became my second home, in fact, and in particular the YMCA Aquatic Club. This experience I cherish to this day. Later, as a freshly minted lawyer, I arrived in Belleville and hung out my shingle also on Campbell Street, as it turns out, and by then the original location of the Y had become the police station, and as the Y in the mid-1960s had moved to its present location and where it is on Victoria Street in the east end of Belleville. Based on my swimming background, I asked the then director of the YMCA if there was a swim team. The answer was, well, no, but why don't you start one? Well, I'm pleased to say that the Belleville Youth Swim Team, although no longer connected with the Y and operating under another name and another location, continues to flourish and proudly represents our Belleville community. My connection with the Y continued over the years on the board of directors and also the national board of the YMCA. There are others in the board here who were also there at the time. My point of this review is to highlight the strength of the Y, namely the many unpaid volunteers. At its present location of about 60 years, our YMCA facility has now gradually been overtaken by Father Time. So we, the many volunteers, with the help of Bellevillians, local organizations, and we hope City Council, we look forward to allowing the YMCA with its several partners to continue its service to Belleville and area from a new location, and that on the west side of Belleville. And I thank you, Council, and your worship.
And that concludes our presentation. I gladly answer any questions if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, thank you. Exciting project. You know, when you came 2.5 years ago and we didn't have a location, we didn't have a funding stream, but our council put the flag down and said that we need a new facility. And that has led to this, which is incredible. And congratulations to you, Mr. Allen, on the team you've assembled. This is going to be a very successful project. And I think, you know, when you consider what's going on in Edmonton at this time, or going on in Belleville at this time, we're hitting the right spot. Hospice Quinte, the New Humane Society, the YMCA, and all the other developments. These are the quality of life offerings that our residents need. And this is coming not a moment too soon. We would like to see it as soon as possible. So thank you very much for your work. Colleagues, any questions or comments for Mr. Allen? Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Allen, and what an all-star lineup you brought in today. Yes, as the former councillor and my good friend Wolf Tausenfreund mentioned, some of us did serve on the board, and those years gave me, and as a member for many years at the Y, gave me an insight into the fact that the YMCA is more than just a gym and a pool and a daycare. It's so much more, and the fabric of the community that it helps serve and strengthen is very important. So I'm just, this from a guy who sat through those meetings and wondered, is that boiler going to blow up this week or next week, is something that is close to my heart. So, oh, and by the way, the photos in here really pop in this publication. So, thanks very much. Okay.
And since we're still in the, Councillor Millette, since we're still in the old building, there are days when we hope that boiler doesn't pop. And you know, you mentioned the team that I have with me. It's my honor to have them part of the team, and I joke, I pinch myself every day and tell myself, just don't blow it. Even I do that. So.
Anybody else? Well, there's no danger of you blowing it. We are all behind you and behind the Y. We all recognize the importance of it as a community facility, and I can speak on behalf of all of us, and that we are fully behind your efforts. You know, as you go through and you do your fundraising, we do expect that in the new year, the next council will receive a deputation from you with something more specific, and I can just say that for my part, I will be very supportive.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank
you,
you.
members of council.
With that, my colleagues, I'm looking for a resolution that the deputation by David Allen, President and Chief Executive Officer, YMCA of Central East Ontario, providing council with an update on the YMCA Building and Campaign Committee project, be received. Moved by Councillor Alsap, second by Councillor Millette. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Item 7 is correspondence, and item 7.1 deals with a letter from the Downtown District, Downtown Business Improvement Area, and it is a letter of non-objection for a food truck waiver. And the resolution is that the April 22nd, 2022 letter from the Downtown District BIA confirming the board's support for waiving the provision contained in Schedule I of bylaw number 2006-140, a bylaw to license, regulate, and govern certain businesses that prohibits refreshment vehicles from operating within the Downtown Business Improvement Area, be approved, and the provision contained in bylaw number 2006-140 be waived for Indian Food Festival, June 5th, 2022, Downtown at Dusk, June 24th, 2022, and Caribbean Festival, June 25th, 2022. Moved by Councillor Kelly, second by Councillor Sandison. Any questions or discussion on this? So I'll call the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Now we'll move to Committee of the Whole, and the resolution is that Council rise and go into Committee of the Whole to hear and consider reports, passing of recommendations and resolutions with myself in the chair. Moved by Councillor Alsap, seconded by Councillor Sandison. All in favor? It's carried. 8A, reports. The agenda shall include, under reports, items that warrant individual attention from Council, and we'll start with 8A1, disposal of surplus land, 633 Sydney Street, and a donation to Habitat for Humanity. The resolution is that pursuant to the Director of Corporate Services, Clerk's Report Number DCS 2022-20, disposal of surplus land, 633 Sydney Street, donation to Habitat for Humanity, the property be declared as surplus to the city's requirements, and that a bylaw to transfer title of the property to Habitat be prepared for Council's consideration. Moved by Councillor Alsap, seconded by Councillor Feeney. Questions and discussion? All in favor? It's carried. 8A2, Vehicle for Hire Bylaw, and the resolution is that pursuant to Deputy City Clerk Report Number DCC 2022-04, a bylaw be prepared for Council's consideration to license and regulate vehicles for hire, and the bylaw be given first reading to allow for public input before the bylaw is given second and third reading and is finally passed, and that a bylaw to amend the fees and charges bylaw number 2021-195 to add the applicable fees be prepared for Council's consideration. Moved by Councillor Sandison, second by Councillor Millette. And so, colleagues, you'll remember there was a letter that we received as correspondence a few meetings ago from the operators of Central Taxi, which is kind of coincidental at the same time we've been reviewing this bylaw, but that is what has triggered this brought before us. And if you have any questions or comments, Director McDonald will be available. Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Director McDonald, I understand that in my brief conversations with you before the meeting, this is, for one, I welcome it as someone who worked with U-Ride, the ride-hailing service, to have them come to town and to help. Actually, this bylaw will help, I would hope, keep what has been a flailing and sometimes failing taxi industry afloat in the city. Some of the concerns that have been voiced already, you've heard them. Can you just give me an idea of how the process for, say, Coventry, who operates Central Taxi, and or U-Ride, which has our only ride-hailing service in town, how they might work to facilitate any changes or any alterations to the bylaw?
Director McDonald.
Through the chair to Councillor Millette. So Certainly, what we're proposing is a first reading of the bylaw only. So for a period of consultation, we're actively requesting that anybody that is subject to the provisions of the bylaw reach out to the deputy clerk or my office for that matter, provide comment on the bylaw that will be on that is currently on the website, and provide us feedback. During the lead up to this being before council today, the city had engaged through the deputy clerk's office a consultant to look at the bylaw that was in dire need of modernization and revamp in many instances. So some of the things that it didn't consider was ride sharing. So certainly it was considered during that process. There was consultation with all of the providers, whether that be the current taxi services in town and some of the ride sharing. So there's been some consultation, but we're certainly seeking their input on the provisions that are in place now. Some of the things that are included in the bylaw now are the removal of tariff, so the providers can set their fees that, from their perspective, set the market. So that's helpful. It's the removal of the number of licenses, the limit on licensing. So certainly in my time here and since the institution of this bylaw in the city, we've had 100 licenses. 75 have always been earmarked with Central throughout the change in ownership over years and years, and the rest with Solar or Bluebird, many revisions of the ownership and models there. That's always been a contentious issue because it's been, said that there's been a monopoly of those licenses by those two owners, which has stifled competition. So that's being proposed for removal, and that will open up the market to anybody who wishes to enter it. So there are a number of things in the proposed bylaw that will allow the market to set the market and encourage competition. So there are other provisions that modernize it and certainly increase some of the protections for the corporation as well. There is certainly, we've heard, and you and I discussed this, insurance provisions which are modernizing the protection for the city. Certainly we are named when there are incidents within the city, and we want to ensure the city has the appropriate protection. So I'm sure we'll have to work through that, but that's something that we'll probably bring back to council.
Go ahead, Councillor Millett.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. McDonald. Yeah, I concur. While at one time we can perhaps open this up to some more operators in the taxi side, I'm comforted by the fact that the protections are there as well for, well, clearly for riders, but for the city as well, because as we all know, it's a very litigious world anymore, and we want to make sure that the operators are doing so in a responsible manner. So 99.9% of this bylaw gives me a good feeling, and the only remaining smidge is just what's been expressed to me by one of the ride-hailing services, but that's not something we can't overcome. So I much appreciate your work on this file, so thanks very much.
Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you. Through the chair, so this is certainly the right time for this bylaw to come forward. And as your report says, there's been a lot of changes since 2010 in terms of what's happening in the market. When I read through it and I realized there's going to be public input to the final product, two things sort of jumped out at me. One was the current fee versus the proposed annual fee. Didn't look like it had changed a whole lot. And over 12 years, I would think that the fee should probably be a little higher than what's proposed here. I mean, if you were to take $120 12 years ago, and the value of that money, even in today's dollars, would be significantly more than $125 just to stay even with inflation. So that was point one. And then the other point was, On the accessible vehicles, the proposal says that if the broker's got 6 taxi cabs, he needs to make sure that one is wheelchair accessible. And then it goes on to say that if he has more than 7, he's got to have a minimum of 4%. So with a 4% threshold, he would have to get to 50 vehicles before he has to put a second vehicle in place. So that, I think we'd be better served with a fixed number rather than a percentage. And so if you take 1 on 6, for instance, it's about 15%. So if you get up to 50, that would say that you should have 7 vehicles, right? So just something to look at as the process unfolds. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? So Councillor Sandison, I think Mr. McDonald will take that into consideration, and as we said, we're going to do first reading of this to allow for that public input. But I share your concern regarding accessible transportation, particularly where there is a significant part of the city that does not have access to our mobility service because it's a rural area, and then depending on what future councils will decide, even some of the urban area north of the 401 may not have accessible access. So it's really important that if there is taxi service, that it's including everybody and that we provide that. So that I agree with you on that part. Mr. McDonald, a couple meetings ago, we received that correspondence from Coventry regarding a request to increase the rates. And I appreciate that, you know, coincidentally, we're also doing the review of the taxi bylaw, so it's a good time to do it all. But I guess, how long do you anticipate that we will be allowing to go by to have this public input so that we can give second and third reading to a bylaw?
To the chair, discussing this with the deputy clerk and the licensing officer who did the majority of this work, working with the consultant and all the service providers. You know, we discussed having this come back at the end of June, so looking at it for a month. So the reality is there has been discussion with the service providers. I think it's fair to have it out for a month. I think any longer and we're perpetuating issues that we've already got. You know, so I think it's a competitive, we're looking at increasing the competition in the market to address some of the issues. Some of the issues that the proposed bylaw is meant to address, I think assists us in addressing some of the problems that council has been dealing with over the last, you know, I'd love to say 2 years, but we're talking probably more like 10 or 12. So I don't think there's benefit in having it out too long. So probably at the second meeting in June, have it back before council.
Yeah, I don't have the letter here in front of me, and I forget what exactly they were requesting for the increase in fee. And I know the new bylaw will allow them to, maybe Councillor Millette, you can read that for me in a second, but I know the new bylaw will allow for the companies to set the rates themselves, let the market decide, and I'm fine with that. But I'm just concerned about, in the meantime, you know, what was the increase that Coventry was requesting, Councillor Millette?
Coventry, the cost of fuel continues to rise, blah, blah, blah. They didn't put a dollar figure on it. They listed all of the costs that they're incurring, and is giving consideration that they are allowed to basically set their own rates.
So they're asking for what we're proposing to give them?
Pretty much.
Okay.
You know, they listed a number of bullet points: vehicle insurance, cost of fuel, 35% increase in insurance since 2012.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, this addresses.
Okay, so that addresses their concern. So I think another month will be fine, so we'll expect to have this come back to us at the second meeting in June, the fourth Monday of the month, and we'll communicate that to Coventry, and going forward, it'll be market-driven rates. You know, the interesting aspect that we are seeing with ride sharing around the world is that the rates change based on the time of the day and the amount of demand. So, you know, people who use Uber, for example, know that, you know, rates later on in the evening are much lower than they are when everybody is trying to use it. And so that will allow the companies to fluctuate, but that will be their their incentive to be able to provide the service, and certainly I'll support that as well. Okay, thank you very much. So we are planning to have this bylaw be given first reading today, and that the new bylaw to amend the fees and charges will be prepared for council's consideration for second and third reading. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. And we will do first reading of the bylaw as we get to the bylaws later on. 8A3, sidewalk replacement and repairs. The resolution is that in accordance with section 30.3, sole and single sourcing, approval and reporting of the city's purchasing bylaw, number 2021-99, that contract ENG 2021-12, sidewalk repair and replacement awarded to 809592 Ontario Inc., operating as Parkside Landscaping and Contracting, be extended under the same terms, conditions, and pricing in the total amount of $260,368.27, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign an acceptance agreement on behalf of the corporation of the city of Belleville, and that the city clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal. Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Alsop. Any questions or comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. 8A4, installation and maintenance of a fire safety box. And the resolution is that pursuant to the Director of Emergency Services and Fire Chief's Report number DFES 2022-03, installation and maintenance of a fire safety box, Council approved the installation and maintenance of fire safety boxes by building owners, and that a bylaw be prepared for Council's consideration. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor Alsop. Any questions or comments on this? I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. We'll now move to 8B, consent items, where Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and Council shall consider such items individually. So I will go around the table and ask Councillor McCaw.
Thank you. Just a quick question on 8B5.
8B5. Councillor Sanderson?
8B8.
Thank you. Councillor Alsop?
No.
Councillor Carr?
No, thank you.
Councillor Feeney?
No, thank you.
Councillor Millette?
No, thank you.
Councillor Kelly?
No, thank you.
All right, so the resolution is that the consent items be approved with the exception of items 8B5 and 8B8. Resolution for that, please. Moved by Councillor Carr, second by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? It's carried. We'll move to 8B5, which is the Belleville Jazz Festival request for street closure, and that the resolution is that pursuant to the request from Festival Coordinator Howard Rees, Council approve that the portion of Front Street from Bridge Street to Victoria Avenue be closed to vehicular traffic on September 3rd and 4th, 2022 for the Belleville Jazz Festival. Moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Millette. Councillor McCaw, you had raised the issue. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question, just through you. So I note this, but I also note that the BIA is hosting the event. So I guess I'm a little confused. Is the BIA hosting the event, or is this event being strictly hosted by the applicant, Mr. Rees?
Well, the application originally came to the grant committee from Mr. Rees, and there is some financial support the city is provided through the Arts and Culture grant. We also considered municipal resources, but the committee could not recommend the street closure because that's not part of the committee's mandate. So it comes here. I do not know the question, if the BDIA has provided their written support for the road closure in the downtown area. If we don't have that, I don't know that they're opposed to it, but I think probably from the a proper way to handle this, we should probably get them on the record as saying they support the street closure, and then perhaps table this to the next meeting. Mr. McDonald, any suggestions?
I don't know. To the chair, I don't know that I've seen anything from the BDIA on this at this time, or if there's been any discussion. This, again, when this came in, was the first we've seen it. So I think it would be a good idea to get their comment. In the past, we've had issues with store owners who have opposed closures in front of their business.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I know they're supportive of this because this is part of their downtown at, they're planning up, I think a block party is the term that they use for the event on the long weekend in September, right, Councillor Alsop? Do you know, has the board considered this recommendation? And can you give us assurance so that we can pass the resolution today, or do you think we should wait and get it in writing?
Well, we certainly had a lot of conversation about the Jazz Festival. I know that the board is in favor, and certainly the executive director is very excited about the festival, with the understanding that there would be a street closure component. So if for record-keeping purposes it's important to get something on paper, then that's fine, but I'm very confident that the board supports this.
Yeah. Mr. Reed, does delaying it for another couple weeks pose any issues for your department with respect to making the arrangements for the street closure?
No, it would not affect any of the staff planning.
Then colleagues, what I would suggest, if Councillor McCaw and Councillor Millette are in agreement, is that we just amend the motion to table it to the next meeting, so that we can get a written support from the BDI for the street closure. I just think that's the best way to go about it, because I can imagine us getting in a situation one day where we make some decisions and then find out afterwards that there is not official support, and then we end up having some challenges. So the motion has been, it's a friendly amendment, they made it themselves, that the item, that the City Council approves it and the item be tabled to the June 6th meeting. Is that the date? Whatever the right date is in June, and we'll have it then. So that's the amended motion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks for bringing it up, Councillor McCaw. 8B8, recommendation for report for application for proposed amendment of bylaw 2010-40, fees for automatic false alarms. And the resolution is that the fees for automatic false alarm bylaw number 2010-40 be amended to update the existing bylaw and revise Schedule A, fees and charges to reflect the Ministry of Transportation rates per vehicle for fire department responses to false alarms, and that bylaw number 2021-195 be amended to reflect the Ministry of Transportation rates for false alarms. Moved by Councillor Sandison, seconded by Councillor Alsop. Councillor Sandison, you raised this issue. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Yep. Excuse me, through the chair. So when I read the report, it reads that the updated bylaw, or the amended bylaw 2021-195 will come forward to council. But as I read through the detail of the report, and this is updating a bylaw from 2010, if you go to the very last page, or Schedule A, fees and charges, there is no charge, like the charge is zero. So first false alarm in 12 months is zero. Subsequent second false alarm in 12 months is zero. And so it strikes me as odd that we're updating the fee and the fee is zero. So shouldn't the fee be something greater than zero?
Well, that's a good question. I know that the Deputy Fire Chief, Carter, is here. Welcome, Mr. Carter. Do you have any information you can share with us?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Sanderson. So we are staying in line with a lot of the departments around the province. We have historically in the past had a number of, I say, businesses and institutions. They would have 2, 3, 4 false alarms in a week. So in that being said, that's why a lot of the departments, they've settled that the first or second are $0, and then it's not till the third one that they bring in the fees through the MTO, the standard fees through the MTO.
Okay, I understand now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Anyone else on this? Councillor Alsop?
Yeah, just to speak to an example of that personally, so we have an alarm system at our business, and we were doing some renovations and some wires got shaken loose, and I think we had 10 or 11 of them in an evening to the police.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I would get the call at 1:03 in the morning and then 1:27 in the morning, and so these things do happen.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay, any other questions? I'll call the vote. All in favor? It's carried. I remember having helium balloons at my business, and at night, after they started to get a little worn out, they would drop, setting off the motion detectors, and then getting up, so yes. 8C, Council Information Matters. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, Members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. And I'll go around the other way. Councillor Kelly.
No, thank you.
Councillor Millette.
No, thank you.
Councillor Feeney.
No, thank you.
Councillor Carr.
No, thank you.
Councillor Alsop.
No, thank you.
Councillor Sanderson.
No, thank you.
And Councillor McCaw.
No, thank you.
All right, so that the agenda items be received is the resolution. Moved by Councillor Alsop, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? It's carried. Rise and report. Motion to rise and report. Moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Alsop. All in favor? It's carried. So we're now on bylaws, and we'll do first reading of bylaws number 2022-79, first reading only, 2022-80, 2022-81, 82, 83, 84, and 85. Can I get a resolution, please? A motion, mover and seconder. Councillor Feeney and Councillor Millette. All in favor? It's carried. Second reading of bylaws 2022-80, 81, 82, 83, 84, and 85. Moved by Councillor Alsop, seconded by Councillor Millette. Any questions or discussion on any of the bylaws? Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I guess, to Director McDonald or whomever to answer. 2022-84, bylaw to amend appoint members to boards, committees, and special committees. We have in the first Schedule A, I guess, we're deleting Connie Carson from Accessibility and Advisory, understandable. And we're deleting Rhonda Schmidt from Diversity and Equity and Inclusion. But I get to the lexicon and I can't see what changes we're making there.
Just the name, a lexicon was referred to previously as the Viridian, the old name. And so we're updating it to the new, the name that should have been there last time, but it's there. Ms. Schmidt resigned from her committee, and I believe Connie Carson also did. And then the names that are being recommended there by me were people who applied originally. They're part of the original group of applicants, and we checked with Mr. Cairns and Mr. Davis to see if they were still interested, and they are, and so we're going to be appointing them. Okay? Yeah, no.
Just for
any other questions? I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's all those bylaws. So third and final reading of bylaws 2022-80, 81, 82, 83, 84, and 85. Moved by Councillor Alsop and Councillor Feeney. All in favor? It's carried. So we have a couple of new business items that I've made council aware of before. First deals with a model home agreement between Potters Creek Developments, Inc. and the Corporation of the City of Belleville. And the resolution is that bylaw number 2022-88, a bylaw to approve and authorize a model home agreement between Potters Creek Developments, Inc. and the Corporation of the City of Belleville be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 24th day of May 2022. Can I please have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Alsop. Any questions or discussion on this? All in favor? And it's carried. And the second item is deals with an amending agreement between the City of Belleville and the Belleville Senators. And the resolution is that bylaw number 2022-87, a bylaw to approve and authorize the execution of an amending agreement to the lease, loan, and licensing agreements between the Corporation of the City of Belleville and the Belleville Senators, Inc. be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 24th day of May 2022. Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Feeney. Any questions or discussion on this? And so just for the purpose of the public who may be interested in this, there are a couple of items that are being addressed by this. First is to update the corporate information with the death of Mr. Melnick, who was the personal guarantor. Also, the original steps of relief that the City of Belleville had provided to the Belleville Senators Hockey Club. The first group of those expired in June of 2021. We had passed that in the fall of 2020, thinking that COVID would be over at the end of June of 2021. It unfortunately wasn't, and so we are extending it for a further 12 months to give them the time to not use up their free rent period that was originally incorporated in the original lease. In exchange for this concession, we are getting an extension on the back end of the lease. So there'll be a further 12 months on the lease extension of the back end in light of this relief that we're providing. Any questions or comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Anyone else for new business today? Seeing none, there are no motions today. Anyone have any notice of motions? So we'll move to announcements. Anyone have any announcements they'd like to make today? All right, well, I have a couple here. First, I'd like to acknowledge that the month of May has also marked both Melanoma Awareness Month and the beginning of summer weather. It is imperative that communities across Canada be reminded of the importance of sun safety at this time of the year. Skin cancer is the most common of all cancers. I would like to proclaim May as Melanoma Awareness Month. I would also like to proclaim Saturday, May the 28th as IG Wealth Management Walk for Alzheimer's Day, presented by the Kiwanis Club of Belleville. This walk is intended to raise funds and awareness for Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a brain disorder that slowly destroys memory and thinking skills and eventually the ability to carry out the simplest of tasks. The Belleville sign and the Bridge Street Bridge will be lit in blue to support this day. I'm also pleased to proclaim June as Parks and Recreation Month. This month promotes the benefits of recreation and parks for physical, social, and environmental health. Access to park and recreation is a fundamental human need that helps foster personal health, strong communities, and social inclusion. I'd also like to proclaim June as Seniors Month in the City of Belleville. It is a time when we recognize our amazing older Ontarians and the contributions they have made in communities across the province. Seniors are recognized through 2 provincial senior award programs that can be accessed at ontario.ca. June 2022 also marks the 230th anniversary of the Black Loyalist exodus from Halifax to Freetown. This journey is the single largest return of African descendants to the continent of Africa throughout history. We join 230 mayors and councils from across Canada in acknowledging this anniversary. I also proclaim June as National Deafblind Awareness Month in the City of Belleville. This month raises awareness for members of the deafblind community, and cities and countries across the globe will be yarn bombed, a form of street art where yarn that is knit, crochet, or wrapped adorns an object in a public space. The Belleville sign on the Bridge Street Bridge will be lit up in blue to support this month during June. I also proclaim June 4th to 11th as Bay of Quinte Pride Week in the City of Belleville, ending with Pride in the Park on June the 11th. This year's theme, Stayed In, Coming Out, features activities all week including an open mic night, brunches, flag raising, pizza nights, and bowling nights. To learn more, I invite people to visit bayofquintepride.ca. And I also proclaim the week of June 6th to 11th as Loyalist Week. That week, Loyalist College is hosting 12 convocation ceremonies, including 3 ceremonies in honor of our class of 2020 and class of 2021 graduates who were previously unable to walk across the stage due to the pandemic-related health restrictions. We are very proud to honor the class of 2022 and 2020 and 2021 Loyalist College graduates and the contributions that they and the college as a whole make to both the City of Belleville and the greater Bay of Quinte region. This week is the Mayor's Week for the Arts, and tomorrow, starting, we will kick off, May 25th, kick off the week with a reception open to the public from 5 to 7 p.m. at the John M. Parrott Art Gallery. The following day, Thursday, May the 26th, we will have an arts luncheon at Capers Restaurant, and then it is opening night of Scenes from the Park at the Theatre in the Wings on Bridge Street East that night. Both those events on Thursday are already sold out. On Friday, May the 27th, join us at the John M. Parrott Gallery for a special author visit from New York Times best-selling author, 19 bestsellers on the New York Times list, Linwood Barclay, from 1:30 to 3:30. Tickets are $5, and each attendee will receive a copy of his new book with their attendance. And then on Friday, please join us for a free concert at the Lions Pavilion in Zwick's Park. A free concert featuring the Quinte Symphony and the Impish Grins from 6:30 to 10 p.m. It's coinciding with the opening of the pop-ups on the bay. It's a great time. Bring your lawn chairs, come down and enjoy the concert as we celebrate the arts. And on Saturday, after you visit the Chamber of Commerce's Fun Fest at Zwick's Park from 12 to 4, please stop by the John M. Parrott Art Gallery for a screening of Toronto filmmaker Jesse McCracken's documentary, Grey Roads. The 2022 Mayor's Week for the Arts will conclude on Sunday back at the Parrot Gallery with the awarding of the prizes for the Arts and Plein Air Festival, and a concluding ceremony will start at 1:30 p.m. More information is available at belleville.ca. On Thursday, May the 10th, I was very happy to be at St. Mike's School presenting to their grade 1 class about being the mayor of the city of Belleville. It was so wonderful to be able to do these events in person again after having such a long absence. And on May the 11th, I was happy to support McHappy Day at the North Front Street McDonald's location. McHappy Day is an annual day of community giving in support of Ronald McDonald Houses and other local children's charities. More than 75 children from our region will have some very McHappy Days this summer at the Children's Foundation Camps of Hope program, thanks to more than $20,000 that was raised last Wednesday in our area. I want to thank Councillors Carr, Millette, Sanderson, and Thompson for attending the reopening of the Trent Valley Distributors location on May the 13th. Trent Valley is a leading provider of restaurant equipment, smallwares, industrial cleaning supplies, and equipment. They have provided the best products at the lowest cost possible for the past 40 years in our community, and we can offer our congratulations to owner Chris Auger and his team. Thank you to Councillors Millette and Sanderson, city staff, and the Green Task Force for volunteering to staff drop-off bins across the city for the Quinny Trash Bash that we held on May 14th. And also a big thank you to Barrie Global for providing garbage bags, Hastings and Prince Edward Public Health for providing gloves, and Maple Bin Services for providing garbage bins for that very successful day. Dozens of residents chipped in and collected trash from roadways, parks, ditches, and in the fields. Thank you to everybody for helping to keep our city clean. Lastly, I want to thank the women and men at Alexicon Energy and Hydro One who serve the residents of our city. On Saturday afternoon, a sudden storm swept through much of southeastern Ontario, including the Belleville area. Significant damage to the electrical distribution system occurred, and residents of Belleville were amongst those without power. And while the power has been restored to our residents, there are thousands in Ontario still without power 4 days after the event. The women and men at Alexicon Energy and Hydro One, who again serve residents in our area, worked throughout the night to assist those residents, and they have been helping outside utility companies restore power to more severely affected areas. We don't know how much we rely on the comforts of our reliable energy system until we get the opportunity to go without it. The system may be of substations, poles, and wires, but it really is the people who work for the companies that make it operate. Thank you to everyone who spent the long weekend helping others. And with that, I will ask for a confirmatory bylaw, and the resolution is that bylaw number 2022-86, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on May 24th, 2022, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 24th day of May, 2022. Moved by Councillor Alsap, second by Councillor Feeney. All in favor? It's carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Alsap and Councillor Millette. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. We'll see you in a couple weeks.